Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the great country of the United States of America. Good morning to the rest of the world. Good morning to every nook and cranny. Our 100,000 watt transmitter is getting to, whether that be northeast Texas, southeast Texas, northeast or northwest Louisiana, southwest Louisiana, and any parts that the internet is at, which is everywhere. So, folks, we are everywhere. Before we get started, of course, we go into the control room where we have our geniuses just to wait in there, making sure those tin cans and strings are sending that signal to that 100,000 watt transmitter. Buenos dias, mi hermanos. ¿Cómo están? How are my brothers doing this morning?
Well, good morning, Egberto. We lost part of Arnie Arneson this morning, and an astute listener alerted us to the fact that it came back. So we were playing two things at once, which is always very interesting. Uh, well, I don't,
Monday.
I don't know whether I'd have two things at once on or just nothing there. I think nothing there is a little less confusing than having two things on at the same time. But that is the way we operate around here with their tin cans of string. 99% of the time they work. There's that 1% was just not going to work at all. So, but we're back on track, and we've got one of the best shows on KPFT right here with Politics Done Right. And
Yay!
yeah, and Jack has you got a half a page of wisdom there for us this morning.
I
Well, I
can't
don't know
wait.
how wise it is, but this is, I hate war. I hate how war is done and how it's built and how it's engineered and I just hate the profit that people make off of war. So, okay, war is dirty business. America, we have a war machine with a doctrine of total domination militarily and economically that our arms dealers have built using your taxpayer dollars to put profit in their pockets. Every missile, every bomb is built on the taxpayers' money, then sold at a huge profit for the arms dealers. War is dirty business. Innocent people die.
Yes, it's bad. It's just bad. And our
So
politicians are right there soaking up those public funds. Oh, yes, we need to have this arms dealer. Oh, yes, we need to do this. The politics is just about as bad as the war dealers. But politics done right is a good show, and that's what we're going to listen to this morning.
So give us something to be optimistic about here, Egberto.
Well, let me tell you, I am a forever optimist, and I think we have a lot of power to make the change that we need to make the change of. And before I even start, I want to tell you thank you for that, Jack, because I'm not talking war today. So today you didn't quite get me to change the subject because we've been talking a whole lot about the war thing. Well, maybe not. Maybe I will say this. Oh
We can
God,
try
Jack, you
again.
did it. Damn it, Jack. Shoot.
Well, and we can try
God,
to derail the show again. You know?
Well,
God,
actually,
Jack.
I forgot my phone, so I didn't have your little piece this morning to try to pair off of you. So I
Uh
did a solo.
Well, let me just say this. Let me just say this. I am in 100% agreement with what Jack just said. And when we talk about the profit motive, etc., I just want to say this. Look, I'm going to take my host hat off because I don't want the people that are blindly for one candidate or any other candidate coming on me on this. Um, taking my host hat off. I am very, very, very disappointed in those who cannot see death and destruction for what it is and try to cater it with a whole lot of words. And that starts from our current president all the way down. Um, when I look at people, I don't look at people. When I look at policy, I look at people as Republican or Democrat politicians. That is, but when I'm talking about us as a country, us as a people, us as a world, the last thing I'm thinking about is, are you a Republican? Are you a communist? Are you a socialist? Are you a capitalist? Or at that point, I'm thinking about how can we relate? how can you see the amount of death that's going on? And by the way, Jack, we are only exposed to what's going on in Gaza right now, right? But if you go to Central Africa, this is happening every day. If we go to the places where the French were in control of, this is happening. If we go to certain parts of the Uyghurs, this is all weird. This is happening. But we don't have much of an interest. And by the way, all the killings and all of that, right? It's done with our weapons. It's interesting. You didn't read the thing today, right? Because you didn't have your phone. But the first question that I have in the newsletter today, and by the way, you can pick up the newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It has what the show is going to be about. I have all the links to our videos, etc., that we don't get to play here because most of the times you all, and I love it, generally take over the show. Um, I wrote this, I put question. And this actually ties into you, Jack. It says, we want to hold to account the business persons who make fentanyl available to US citizens who choose to take these drugs voluntarily. And I put the business persons in quotation. I mean the thugs that are bringing fentanyl over. And then I said, should we hold to account gun manufacturers who furnish guns to countries and guerrillas alike? You know, they're both sending weapons. One, fentanyl is killing our kids. Now the kids are taking, or not kids, but people. The people are taking this fentanyl. Uh, nobody's stuffing it down their throats, but there is a certain amount of addiction and other things that occur. But we have a healthy supply. We now talk about attacking these people that are sending over fentanyl. Shouldn't we feel the same way about the gun manufacturers who are profiting from all this killing around the world, not just in Gaza, but everywhere else? Questions that we should ask ourselves. Welcome aboard, Alistair Waters from Conroe, Texas. Thank you for being here, my beautiful friend. Anyway, today the title of the show is Interview with Cuban Ambassador. Chris Hayes knocked MAGA migrant crime live. Don't know if we're going to get to the second one, but we're definitely going to get to the first, given that the phones haven't started ringing yet, and I haven't given out the number yet. But I interviewed the ambassador of Cuba to the United States on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. She was in town. Believe it or not, she was also going to the rodeo. And a friend of mine called and said, Egberto, she's going to be in town. Uh, why don't you interview her to the task? So I went there. And my goal for the interview wasn't to go out there and say, you guys are communists and da da da. I wanted to have a conversation. All right. And so I'm prefacing this so that my Cuban brothers and sisters don't why didn't you ask her when Castro killed X, Y, and Z? That's not the purpose of the interview. Just like if I were to interview Brother Biden right now, I wouldn't. One of the questions I wouldn't say, "Why are you sending 2,000-pound bombs that have killed X amount of Palestinians?" Or, many questions I could say like that. I wanted to get to the essence of the politics and not to the gotcha type politics. So without further ado, this is the ambassador of Cuba that I interviewed late last week, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. Today we are honored to have the Cuban ambassador, Lianys Torres. Lianys, how are you doing this afternoon?
Well, fine.
Well,
Thank you for having me.
Well, let me tell you, when I heard that you were coming to Houston, I said, I've got to speak to her because I've covered Cuba before. I've had a lot of conversations here about Cuba. And I think the problem that we have is many people misunderstand all about Cuba. So my first question to you is, tell me a little bit about how was Cuba formed?
How was formed?
How did it come to be? The new Cuba.
The new Cuba, where after 1959, we got a revolution in Cuba that was head by Fidel Castro, Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro. And it came to power after decades of being a neo-colony. under governments that didn't took care of our people. And Fidel and the revolutionary power came with the program that was in which the Cuban people, the Cuban men and the Cuban women were the center of everything. We had since then free education, free and universal education, free and universal health care. For example, my family was not a wealthy family before the revolution, and we were able to go to the university to study free since kindergarten to PhD, and it's the same with the healthcare, and that is how you have the new Cuban that is different from the one that we had before 1959.
What was Batista,
Times
the
you
part
have
of
to
the
say
old
Okay, folks, I
Cuba like? What
understand.
was the
Okay, there we go.
lifestyle of
We
the
got you
average
back.
Cuban citizen? I'm
Right.
not talking about the elite. I'm talking about the average Cuban
All right,
citizen.
folks, that's my fault.
We sort of got you.
No, that's my fault. Let me just say that I am so sorry that there is one particular setting that I am supposed to do whenever I have these external sites that I didn't, and I'm correcting that as we speak. And I promise to get you that entire interview. Every so and then you screw up, and I just screwed up, and I will fix that right away. Sorry to our listeners, but here we go with that interview. My greatest and most sincere apologies.
Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. Today we are honored to have the Cuban ambassador, Lianys Torres. Lianys, how are you doing this afternoon?
Well, fine.
Well,
Thank
look,
you for having me.
well, let me tell you, when I heard that you were coming to Houston, I said, I've got to speak to her because I've covered Cuba before. I've had a lot of conversations here about Cuba. And I think the problem that we have is many people misunderstand all about Cuba. So what my first question to you is, tell me a little bit about how was Cuba formed?
I was formed.
How did it come to be? The new Cuba.
The new Cuba, where after 1959, we got a revolution in Cuba that was head by Fidel Castro, Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro, and it came to power after decades of being a neo-colony under governments that didn't took care of our people. And Fidel and the revolutionary power came with the program that was in which the Cuban people, the Cuban men and the Cuban women were the center of everything. We had since then free education, free and universal education, free and universal health care. For example, my family was not a wealthy family before the revolution, and we were able to go to the university to study free since kindergarten to PhD, and it's the same with the healthcare, and that is how you have the new Cuban that is different from the one that we had before 1959.
What was Batista, the part of the old Cuba like? What was the lifestyle of the average Cuban citizen? I'm not talking about the elite. I'm talking about the average Cuban citizens. What was their life like?
It was difficult. It was difficult because they had they didn't have a proper health care, the one that is needed for a human being. The same with education. You have people in the countryside that depend of certain crops, for example, like sugar. And when the crops finish, they didn't have jobs. You have in the countryside many children that were unattended, talking about health care, that didn't go to school because they have to work since they were very little to help their families to live, to have money to eat. And everything changed. Now we have, since then, we have teachers, we have doctors, even in the more remote areas of our country, in the mountains. and the situation was difficult for them. And that changed with the revolution.
Usually revolutions don't occur unless enough people are mad with their current government. Now, after the revolution occurred, it is understood that Fidel Castro attempted to have relationships with both sides of the Cold War, if you will, both the American side and the Russian side. Can you mention anything about that?
Well, there was a hostile attitude towards Cuba since the beginning of the revolution from the U.S. government. And it was not the same with the Soviet Union. And since then, the situation with the U.S., the bilateral relation and the bilateral political situation has been difficult.
Now, you have been embargoed. There has been an embargo on Cuba since the inception of Cuba, since the beginning of Cuba. And many believe that is the reason why the Cuban economy could never develop to the state that it would be otherwise. Would you say that pretty much a boot was on your neck from the time you started as a country?
That's right. That's right. Since February 1962, there has been you call it an embargo, we call it a blockade, it's the same. It is the most comprehensive and long, talking about years, sanction system that have existed against a country, the one that is against Cuba. And it has been difficult for our economy to develop on those conditions. For example, we have not access to the main financial institutions in the world that a normal country have access to, and that give access to, by the way, to credits to develop infrastructure, industries of any kind. We don't have that privilege. We don't have, it's difficult for a normal company in a third country to have economic and trade relation with Cuba, because we are a sanctioned country first. And since 2021, a country that were re-included in the list of state-sponsored terrorism. So companies are afraid to be fined, as it has happened in the past, for having relation with Cuba, with Cuban counterparts in our country. So it's difficult to develop in those conditions. Cuba cannot import anything that has more than 10% of US components. So that's the reason from which we don't have planes, for example, because the US components are high and so on. And it happens with machineries for our industries, and it happens with the rest of the technologies, we could call it.
You explained earlier that one of the reasons you don't have machinery is that 10% rule, meaning if 10% of the components of any piece of equipment comes in there, those companies are liable to sanction. Does that not really say that even if a Norwegian company or a company in Nigeria or Brazil, if any of them attempted to give you a machine, given that they may have a microprocessor that makes up 10%, they won't sell you that equipment because, again, they are liable to sanction from the United States?
That's right. They cannot do it. They cannot sell it to Cuba.
So every country in the world is blackmailed from being able to do business with Cuba, even if they don't agree with the American policy.
They are not allowed to sell anything that has more than 10% of US components. That's a tough rule.
Now, with all of those, because I've always been fascinated with Cuba, forgetting about ideology, forgetting about economic systems, etc., that a company under dire straits had been able to send as many doctors around the world and educate a lot of doctors from around Central America, the Caribbean, free of charge. How can you do that, and why do you do that?
You know, our people are we are educated since we are little in with solidarity values. Solidarity is very important for Cuba. It's part of us. It's part of our culture. It's part of our mindset, and we practice that with every country that is in need of any kind of like this one of doctors of medicine. And we have sent doctors to more than 100 countries that have asked Cuba for that help, that kind of help. We have done that. But at the same time, some countries need to have their own doctors, or those who, for example, in very underserved areas or underserved communities, don't have access. Their population don't have access to doctors. I've never seen a doctor in their life. They have asked us to graduate doctors. And there's a Latin American School of Medicine in Cuba that have graduated for free thousands of doctors from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia, and more than 200 from the US. Young Americans that lived here in underserved communities had gone to Cuba, have become physicians for free, and have come back to the US to serve most of them in their communities. And that is something that we do with proud to help the people of those countries.
Now, a lot of people would listen to this interview and they're saying, there is this Cuban ambassador coming to America and she is going to tell you all the beautiful things about Cuba. But in reality, it is a darn communist country that's sending terrorists all over the world. First of all, I'm curious because if you're sanctioned as much as you're sanctioned and you don't have the resources for all these other things, where are you getting the resources to be terrorists?
We are not terrorists. We are a people, we are a country, and our people, we love peace. We are a country of peace. We are a country of solidarity. We are a welcoming country that even Americans, one could think, I want an American. I won't go to Cuba because we don't have good relation with Cuba. Maybe I could be attacked or rejected or something. No, we are not raised. We haven't been raised hating people. We are clear the difference between the relation between governments and the relation between people. We are a country of peace. We don't export terrorism. We send doctors to countries that are in need of health care, and they don't have enough manpower in their healthcare system, and they ask us for help for that. But they are our army, if you want to call it, is an army of white coats, the doctor's coats.
Well, let me just say, I'm originally from Panama, and my perspective is more of an international perspective. So I really don't generally fall for the propaganda, neither from the United States or from Cuba or from anywhere else.
Yeah.
I simply concentrate on what the deeds are of any particular country, and any country that I find is willing to give healthcare to or give to educate people at a low cost or for free. I think it's good. I think our country here, America, should kind of take note that the birth rate, death in Cuba is actually less than it is here in the United States of America, and that most people can get health care, something that we're still trying to get for a lot of our own people here in this country. Now, earlier on, I asked this question in a session that you had that I still want an answer for. I think I want a better answer for. And that was when, after the revolution with Fidel Castro, it was demanded that reparations be paid to all businesses and people whose property was nationalized, understood. And I understand that Cuba paid everyone except the United States because of certain reasons. Of course, I think Black people in the United States are still trying to get their reparations as well, but that's another subject. Please tell me, why is it that Cuba, first of all, has not done that, or why should they do that, given that most of that wasn't even purchased from Cubans?
Well, before the revolution, as I was explaining before, most of the land, most of our main industries were in U.S. companies' hands. And after the revolution, there was a process of nationalization. And we had, as you were saying, properties also from other countries, Spain, Canada, France, Germany, Switzerland, and we compensate all of them during years. But most of the main industries were in U.S. hands. So the value of that compensation was much, much bigger than those that I spoke before. And back then, the only thing that we export was sugar. So the only thing that we had to pay to the US was sugar. We used to have a quota that we export to the US, and the plan was to pay with that to compensate those companies. But then the US government came and established the sanctions, cut the Cuban sugar quota, and we didn't have a way to pay. For example, you could think, okay, but you have money in the bank, in the national bank. No, but Batista took that money when he left Cuba. So we didn't have how to pay. It was a new government with the country trying to survive. And then you have the main superpower, your main trade partner, who sanctioned you. How were we going to pay?
Now, you're sanctioned more so than China, Russia, or any other country in the world, and then asked at the same time to compensate or provide reparation to those people's properties who were nationalized in a revolution. Am I correct?
Yes.
Going forward, because we want to be forward-looking, what is your expectation now that we have an ambassador here in the United States, you? What is your expectation in creating a better relationship with the United States and having the United States citizens beyond the government understand the reality of what's happening in Cuba, both with sanctioning and with actual relationships?
Well, our government have conveyed to the U.S. government our will to advance, to have better bilateral relations. And the only condition that we put on the table is respect, which is a basic rule. Respect to our sovereignty, respect to and not interference in our domestic issues, which is a basic rule, and those are principles that are in the UN Charter. We, as neighbors, we could be trading, we could be cooperating in healthcare, environment. We have common problems. We share a sea border. For you is south, for us is north. We have issues of law enforcement, like human trafficking, like drugs, like trafficking in persons. Those are issues that we have to address as neighbors and should be cooperating in all that. But the economic and commercial trade is an important issue because you are a superpower and we are on a small economy that is that wants to have a better relation with the U.S. But with the sanction, it's difficult to advance. It's something that we have. You were saying a boot in our neck.
Mhm.
It is like that. It is a boot in our neck. It's something that is trying to strangle day per day, and it's difficult to advance with those conditions. But as I said, we are ready to do it, to advance with the US, to sit and talk about any issue with that basic rule that I said before.
I purposefully did not ask anything about communism, capitalism, or any of the isms, and I'm not going to. And the reason I'm not going to touch those particular issues, because it means something to every particular different country. In fact, I can find some good and bad in every single system. But what I want to ask you is, as the last questions, are Cubans happy?
Well, we are enduring difficult times in Cuba now because of the economic situation that we are going through. Our government has the goal to provide more for our people, is trying to do it under these extreme and difficult conditions. And when you have scarcities and all that, it's difficult. You were talking about happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy because I know that I have a government that cares about the people, that has a plan to go forward, that works every day to do it, and I don't have to worry because my daughters go for free to the university. I don't have to worry because if I get sick, I can go to the hospital for free. So those are needs, basic needs that we have covered. But it's difficult, as I said, in the current condition that normal Cubans are enduring. The daily life is difficult, but we know we are going to succeed. We know that it will take time, but we have plans to do it. And as I said, our government works 24 hours, 24 by 7 to achieve that.
I said that was the last question, but I lied. There's one more question. There's one more question.
Yeah, you're journalist. I always tricky.
Yeah,
always tricky.
But this one here is a bit more serious, and I think in as much as Americans are going to learn a lesson dependent on who they elect in the next Congress or in the next presidential election, I want to hear about one more thing about Cuba. Can somebody in Cuba go on the streets and say, I don't really like my government right now, and not get killed?
Killed for that?
No, it's not. I know it sounds funny, but people in America believe once you speak out against Fidel Castro, once you speak out against any of the Castros or anybody in your government,
no,
are they going to be sanctioned, thrown in jail,
no.
Why? Where is that coming from?
I don't know. It's propaganda against Cuba. It's part of there's a campaign of misinformation on Cuba, and anything that happened in Cuba that can be common in another part of the world, in Cuba, it is magnified when it happened in Cuba. We have law, we have rules that you follow them, you don't go to jail. We complain every day about things that happen in the country in a positive way, in a constructive way, trying to find solutions to that, and you don't go to jail for that. I think it's part of the misinformation that is against Cuba, because you need a way to justify this criminal, this genocide that is the sanction system. that is preventing us for having a better life.
Ambassador Lianys Torres, thank you so kindly for the
Thank
interview.
you so much for having me.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I tell you, we got two callers holding for quite a bit. I want to go to Gonzalo first because Gonzalo is Cuban and I want to give him the floor first. Gonzalo, ¿qué pasó, mi hermano? Habla conmigo.
Yeah, good morning, Egberto. Thank you for giving the opportunity to the Cuban ambassador in the United States to give her a perspective about the U.S. and Cuban relationship. As a journalist, I think you did a great job because you didn't put her in an embarrassing situation like many other journalists that tried to say al pan pan y al vino vino, straightforward, what's going on in Cuba. I didn't like her answers about the history of Cuba because it's always about the fairy tale before 1959. And 60 and some years have passed. I think she has to break down more the history into different decades and give a more futuristic perspective about the history of Cuba because many things have changed. I disagree with her with the way they see the embargo and the way they see the lack of funds because they have got credits from all over the world and they have been unable to pay a cent to the Club of Paris, to Argentina, Japan, and you name them. Almost all countries, including China, have given credit. Even Russia has condemned the former USSR debt that was millionaire, and they haven't even been able to pay a cent. And there is always an excuse. So with a government that is unable to pay back what they owe, it's hard to give them more chance. And that's the bottom line. And I don't blame them because they are unable to pay. I blame the system that has been incapable to prove that they have been successful and they don't even cover the basic needs of people. She talked about education and healthcare. That used to be a great thing, but things have changed. And she talked about the hardship that people are going through and she doesn't worry about her daughters to go to university or to go to a hospital if they get sick. But how about the daily life, getting the daily bread? Is it easy? That's the most important question. And you didn't also mention the fact that 5% of the Cuban population, which is not 11 million anymore, has fled after the pandemic. And they use the secret pathway that the government has negotiated with Nicaragua, with charter planes that go full and come back empty, or they just go to a different direction. And they always, because all the people that go to Nicaragua, most of them don't come back. And you know the end of the story. So I wish you, as a journalist, to cover those issues because I think those are very sensitive to the majority of the Cuban people. And of course, we know the history. And that was repetitive and boring. And I didn't like that part, to be honest with you. That's all I have to say.
Look, I noticed I wanted to make sure because, like I said, you're a Cuban and you came over here. I imagine your folks right after the revolution, etc. And I wanted to hear, I honestly wanted to listen to what you said in the entirety as being a Cubano de ahí. Now, I want everybody, there's a 2015 documentary, right? Before I did this interview, I wanted to remember a whole thing starting from Jose Marti and these other things. I wanted to actually hear these things, right? So what I did is I went ahead and listened to this 8-part documentary. It started from before the revolution, it started with all the different U.S. invasions from the Spanish and all of that. And it's, I think, for a perspective, even for Cubans, I think it's an extension. It's a essential listen to. It wasn't a documentary that was trying to fantasize about Castro or if Castro is good, bad, or whatever. It just kind of told you how things were. And the part, and I hear you as far as the lives are bad right now. You know, we had quite a few things off of camera that we really hit up on. But like I said, the purpose of the interview wasn't to go and say you communists or anything like that. You know, there are good things to what Cuba has done. Let's look at how they developed the vaccine for on their own for COVID, and not only that, but they didn't suffer the way we suffered in as much as they have. There are other things that we have to look into as far as how can we be so tough with Cuba on sanctions when we aren't with China or Russia or any other country we deem to have a economic or political system we don't like. And again, um, this isn't about the government of Cuba. This is about the lives of the people. When we sanctioned these people, we sanctioned them in the expectation that we make life so difficult for people that they overthrow their government. Well, the fact that the Cuban government hasn't been overthrown, and it's probably one of the only governments sanctioned this much and not overthrown. One has to ask the question, how is that attained? I don't know, but it is something that has to be asked. But Gonzalo, I hear you. I want to talk more about this when we don't have the 23-minute interview where we can spend more time on that and go back and forth with these particular issues because there are
Also,
serious issues.
one
Yes,
thing
sir.
you missed. One thing you missed. It was
Hmm.
about the Obama visit to Cuba in 2014. I think that was a great opportunity for Raúl Castro to end up the history of the uh, U.S. and Cuban relationship into a good end because he had the right moment to step out
Right.
and be honest himself. But I think he has a goal, and is to keep the heritage of the Castro family as his brother that never uh, wanted to deal with the U.S. government. And I think it's not about the U.S. government. I think it's a vendetta family issue. Uh, uh, because of Diaz Balars and all the people that are in Florida.
Well, you know,
And
Ballard is a relative of Castro. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing the incestuous
uh,
relationship. All the Ballards that you see on TV and all of that, they're actually by law in relation with Fidel Castro. It's funny, but I tell you what,
yeah,
Gonzalo, let's talk about this another day. I just wanted to give you a time as a Cuban to come on here and say your part.
thank you
There's a
very
lot
much.
more to
Thank
talk.
you very much. And again, it was an opportunity, and we're living in a democracy. I think they have the right to express themselves. I didn't hear anything outstanding because she has a script to read or just have it in her mind, and she just repeats what she learned because that's what they all do.
That's that's what
To me,
wait, let's put it one way, including myself. That is what we all do, right? Until we unlearn certain things that are untrue or true, that's what we do. And that's, I think, if we can get to that place, Gonzalo, and realize that, and that's why I can speak to everybody. Everything that we say is not necessarily something we fully experience, but something that we got from somebody or some entity we trust. And there are times it's unworthy to have trust some entities. So let's talk another time, Gonzalo. Muchas gracias por llamar
all
y
right. Thank
hablar
you
de
very
esto.
much for your opportunity. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
my
you. Bye bye.
brother. All right, let's go to Harry. Come on in, Harry. Sorry to keep you holding that long. I actually threw Gonzalo in front of you because he's Cubano, and I know it was going to pick the subject. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you did do that because it helps me to learn. And I'm glad Gonzalo there talked about Obama at the end because Obama was taking the United States, I feel, in the right direction to so that Americans can get to know Cubans and all that propaganda stuff will be they'll know the truth because that ambassador is just that you interviewed was just telling you the truth and her perspective of how she feels that the sanctions are hurting Cubans from getting a better life in some of those in those areas. And I just hope that those sanctions will be taken off, and that Cubans will make more progression and make more progress. And that's a good thing because I saw that movie Sicko when they were talking about when
Oh
Michael Moore
yeah,
did that.
Michael Moore.
And
Yeah, great
yeah,
movie.
yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, he's a very informative and he wants to bring truth to the world. And I'm glad that the Cubans were doing that with the vaccines. But what I called was to talk about what I was going to talk about last week. I didn't have time to talk about it. There's a show on the middle that comes on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, and I sometimes call into that show when they talk about certain topics. I called in to talk about Donald Trump a few weeks ago that he should be taken off the ballot. But they interviewed this Governor Spencer Cox of Utah, and he was talking about third party candidates, and he also was talking about transgender people. And I didn't like his comments when they asked him, well, how do you feel about third party candidates? And he said, well, there's three running. There's Robert Kennedy Jr., there's Cornel West, and there's Jill Stein. And then the guy asked him about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. He passed a bill. Now, he said he believes in diversity, equity, inclusion, but how can you do that, say you believe in that, Governor Cox, when you say the third-party candidates are no good? And then he was saying that he was bashing Trump because he's against Trump, but I don't believe him because he was up here talking about how Joe Biden will be a disaster if we get another 4 years. And then he talked about transgender people. They asked him about that, being in women's sports. And he just was saying, look, on one hand, that he's for transgender people, but they should not be with playing sports with straight people. And I just, it sounds to me that he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. I
I
just do
I didn't
not like
see
it.
Harry. I didn't see the interview, right? But let me just
Right.
say one thing because uh, I, I I'm not going to touch a trans issue right now as far as the sports and trans, etc.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't know enough about it. I went ahead and went on a
Right.
limb a few weeks ago and got schooled.
Uh-huh.
So I want to make sure that
Right.
I get that right. So I can't talk about that right now. But I'm with you. I
Right.
First of all, the one I
Right.
think people need to stop disrespecting the what you call it, the third string candidates,
Third party. Third party.
third party
Third
candidates.
party good.
And and look, I think right now some of them will present a danger to either side. But and I hope when it comes, I would want them. I'll be honest with you. I want them to drop out so we don't run the risk of electing a Donald Trump. Okay, but I think this has to be
Yeah,
done
I understand
in
you
a
on that.
this has to be done in a respectful fashion. Not simply dissing these people. But hey, Harry, my phones are starting to
Right.
pick up, so let me let
Okay.
you go,
I'll
and
say
we
one
talk
more thing, and
tomorrow.
I'll. Can I say one more thing?
Real
And then
quick, please.
I'll go.
Real quick.
Thank you, Howard, for playing that song last Thursday when Neil Aquino was on before the Egberto show started. It was Feline Ethnicity by Warren Bernhardt. You had told me it was Gerald Albright, but I used to listen to that song on KKSF, and I thank you for that because I went back and researched that one, and I do
Thank you
love
very
that.
much, Harry. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And before I want to ask folks to do this about Cuba. There is a documentary on Netflix called the Cuba Libre story. The Cuba Libre story, I think, was made in 2015. It's objective. It doesn't try to put a nice thing on either side or whatever. It just kind of lay the things out, what happened, etc. I would urge, let's stop just listening to anecdotal things. Let's look at the history. And this one is presented visually. And the nice thing about it is for those who don't want to sit down and read about Jose Marti and all of this, and Machado, whatever, you get a chance to do it in 8 short episodes. Consider looking at the Cuba Libre story, and you can make some objective opinions thereafter. Let's go to Brother Brian. How are you doing, Sir Brian?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, sir.
Okay. There's not been a lot of press lately about the illegal aliens and the crime that they are committing.
Mhm.
And I'd like to know why CNN originally picked up the story of the Lakewood shooter, and then they found out that she was a transgender illegal alien, and they dropped the story.
Wow.
It was the same with it's the same with the shooter in Nashville. She wanted
Okay.
she wanted to kill as many little white children as possible. Now, it's not been broadcast too many times here. About a year and a half ago, there was an 11-year-old child. Her name was Maria Gonzalez. She was raped, strangled, and stuffed under a bed in Pasadena. That man was an illegal alien. There was
Okay.
also a shooter, an illegal alien, a shooter in Cleveland, Texas, killed 5 people. One of them was an 8-year-old child. Okay? Nobody hears about that.
Okay.
The left
I
wants-
get where you're going, Brian. We're running out of time. I get where you're going. Let's say you come up with 20 more of those. Maybe you'll come up with 20 or 30 or 40 more of those. Okay. There was an American. Panama was trying to go ahead and close a mine. An American guy was driving down the Pan American Highway in Panama, and he took out a gun and he shot and killed 2 Panamanian teachers. This American dude came to Panama and
He was
killed
Lord.
people. Wait. Let me finish. Let me finish.
No, he was-
I made you talk, brother. Let me talk now, please. Come on, Brian. You know I love you, man. Come on, stop. All right.
Yeah.
So this American guy came into Panama and he shot 2 Panamanians and killed them. Then there is this guy went on in Fort Gulick in Colon and shot this American dude. He decided to move to Panama and he shot and killed these folks. What I'm trying to tell you is I can sensationalize anything that I want to do. But do you know what I can't sensationalize, Brian? The actual numbers. If I pick up every single undocumented worker who has committed a crime in the United States, and I then look at every single American citizen, born American citizen, who have created a crime in the United States, here are the facts. And this is where I said we can sensationalize every individual incident. But if we add all these numbers up, undocumented people in this country commit far less crimes than born citizens. And what the information that you've read, first of all, the stuff about a transgender woman who went into the church and killed, that is not true, brother. It's a woman who had mental problems, who has had it. Her Jewish mother-in-law loves this woman who talks about what problems she has had. If you're interested in truth information and not the fallacies that there are some rags putting out there, let's do that. You're a smart dude, Brian. Don't go for the sensational, just go for the numbers and the truth. So Brian, I got to go to Ilan, and we're running out of time, but let me just say, I gave you the entire time to put that story out. Now I just needed to correct some of that story, and I hope I did. We'll talk tomorrow, Brian, all right? Let's go to Ilan. Come on, Ilan. How you doing, my brother?
Egberto, in 1995 or 6, when I was a student at U of H, part of our Black Student Union, we formed a student group called Cuba Friendship Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And in that year that followed, we had the Cuban women's volleyball team came to U of H and played. And we met them at the restaurant there on Alabama Street near Montrose.
Mm-hmm.
And also speaking was a man. I think he was the mayor of Houston. I'm sorry, mayor of Havana, and so we learned a bit about Cuba that way. So we had Cuba Friendship Committee back in 1996. That's all I needed to tell you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And folks, let me just say, I always have a sort of a bias to a Cuba and a Haiti for reasons that are pretty personal. But I don't have the time to go into it because B is on the line. So let me go to B and then I'll move on because we're running out of time. B, you got about 45 seconds, my friend.
Sure thing. Good morning. This will be quick. I just wanted to correct something the last caller said, saying that the Lakewood shooter was a trans person, when in reality that's not true at all. The police have corrected that. They used, the shooter previously used a male name as a synonym for committing, another name to commit crimes. And I just think it's funny that, conservatives got so excited about that because they're obsessed with identity politics and they're bigots. Right. So that's why this last caller, wanted to harp on them as well as illegal immigrants. But they don't want to get into the fact that the majority of shooters are straight white men. So, if you're going to start playing with identity politics, I think mass shooters is the wrong issue to do it with.
Thank you, B. You have a great day, my friend. All right. Look, we only have, I appreciate your call. Thank you. We only have 1 minute left, so it's time for me to jump back to the studio to our brothers, Howard and Jack.
Well, I was going to tell Brian it's pretty darn amazing that this transgender woman had a child. They don't usually have children. Brian, you need to wake up, bro. And Jack, what you got for us?
Well, the Cuban story is, started, way back in the 1900s when, we went over to help them get rid of the Spanish, but they made a amendment that says that they wouldn't stay, but they broke that amendment and just basically took over Cuba at that point.
All right, folks. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, everybody. Love my callers, love my listeners. But we got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this program. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.